Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and this is Character Vault, where I go through the whole entire process of creating a character from start to finish in different RPGs. And this week, I will be creating a character for the system Worlds Without Number by Kevin Crawford. Now, the previous week, I actually created a character for Stars Without Number, which is the sci-fi game that kind of really, I don't know, brought Kevin Crawford to my attention, I suppose. And Worlds Without Numbers is the fantasy side of things from Kevin Crawford. And a lot of the processes from Stars are represented here. So if you're familiar with Stars Without Number, then this will be a very familiar experience for you. And on page 6, we actually do have the character creation summary, which I do enjoy, but it's a little bit too wordy for my taste. Too much reading for me, I guess. So what exactly do we need to create a character? First, you're definitely going to need the 2 pages for the actual character sheet. The first page has all of your relevant stats and things like equipment and weapons and skills and stuff like that, while the second page has your magic and just note-keeping things, your wealth, your goals, and whatnot. You're also going to need some dice, 4d6, I believe, no, 3d6 for your stats or your attributes, and you'll also need a pencil with a functioning eraser. So what is involved in the whole character creation process for Worlds Without Number? Well, first we're going to be rolling our 6 attribute scores, and we're going to actually assign them in order. And we get to actually pick one attribute to change to a score of 14. We'll also mark down our attribute modifiers on this step. Then we're going to pick a background, and we'll gain a free skill from whichever background we choose at level 0. Then we'll roll for skills 3 times on either the growth or the learning tables from that specific background that we've chosen. Then we'll actually get to choose a class, which starts on page 18, and just like Stars Without Number, there's really only 3. So you have your expertise, your warrior, and this time you have the mage. Of course, you can do partials in 2 of those classes and kind of mesh them together. After that, we'll go ahead and choose our foci, and we'll get 1, and depending on if we chose the warrior or the expertise, we'll actually get to pick another one as well. After we choose our foci, we do get to pick 1 skill and gain it at level 0, and after that, if we're a mage, we'll actually get to pick a tradition. So full mages will actually get to pick 4 spells from both of their traditions that they pick, or partial mages will get to pick 2 spells. After that, we're going to choose our equipment package. Alternatively, you could roll 3d6 and multiply that by 10 to get your starting silver pieces, but I do like the equipment packages in this set, so I am going to choose one of those. Then we'll roll for our maximum hit points, and after that we'll start doing our final touches like base attack bonus, weapon damage, to hit for weapons and things like that. We'll get our armor class, and then we'll actually note down our 4 different saving throws. And the very last thing that we'll do is we'll actually pick a name and a goal for a character. So that's it for the entire process. Now let's actually get into it, because I'm actually really excited about this one. First things first, we are actually going to roll for our attributes. So again, this is going to be 3d6 right down the line. I'm not going to mess with any of the numbers or anything like that, or pick and choose where I want them to go. So I got my pen, I got my index card just to kind of write them down, and I will be going in the order of strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and then charisma. So I got my 3d6 ready. Let's get to rolling. Our first roll we have is a 12 for strength. All right, not bad. I actually do have in mind what class I do want to play, and I am going to show off how to make a mage for this one. This is a 1. Okay, so that is 8 for us for dexterity. Interesting. Next we have another 12 for constitution. So I thought I would actually show off how to do a Mage class, since I didn't do a Psychic class in Stars, and those two processes are quite similar. I got a 10 this time around for Intelligence. Interesting. For our next roll, we have an 8. Ooh. I believe these are all at +0. So, not too bad. And for our last one, we have another 8. All right, so we got 3 8s, 2 12s, and a 10. So we have our 6 attribute scores there. So going down the list, for strength we have 12, dexterity is going to be 8, constitution will be 12, intelligence will be 10, wisdom will be 8, and charisma will be 8. And I find it really peculiar that in the actual character sheet, they don't have the modifiers listed, but I believe all of our scores fall within the +0 range. So our attribute modifiers are all going to be 0. So not good, but also not bad either. Of course, I'm actually going to increase one of those to a 14, and I probably shouldn't have written that down because I am going to increase my intelligence. I feel like a mage would have to be highly intelligent, especially since they're going to be sacrificing some of their physiqueness for studies and things like that. So our intelligence is going to increase to 14, which will give us a +1 bonus. So at least we have that going for us. Next, we're going to choose a background. The list of backgrounds begin on page 11, and just like with Stars Without Number, you can actually choose to roll for a background by rolling a d20 and then consulting the table, or you could just elect to choose your own. And they range from artisan, barbarian, carter, courtesan, the criminal, hunter, laborer, merchant, noble, nomad, peasant, performer, physician, priest, sailor, scholar, slave, soldier, thug, or wanderer. And I think what I'm going to elect to choose, it was either going to be noble or a scholar. But the thing is, I don't really like being called a black sheep or an exile as a noble. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the scholar. And it also probably will fit in well with our actual eventual mage class. So let's go ahead and go to the scholar. So dedicated scholars are few and far between in this world, but your hero is one of those rarities, either through noble birth, a wealthy background, or dedication to some institution of knowledge. Your hero has had the opportunity to become immersed in a life of study. You may have a particular field of focus, but scholarship in this age is a broad undertaking, and every scholar is expected to know something of the natural sciences and the nations surrounding their home. Given this education, those scholars with the daring to become adventurers can find themselves called upon to perform highly perilous field research. So on our character sheet, we're going to go ahead and write scholar. We also get the free skill know. That will be at level 0. Now remember, if we wanted to make a very quick character, we could just elect to take the quick skills. In this case, it would be heal 0 and administer 0. I will be rolling on the growth and the learning tables. And last time when I did Stars Without Number, I did roll quite a bit on the growth table. So I'm thinking that perhaps this time I'm going to roll once on the growth table, and that's going to be a simple d6, and then I'm going to roll twice on the learning table. Now, if I wanted to choose my own skills, I could do that. I would only get to choose 2, but I would only be able to choose it from the learning table, not the growth table. So there is that trade-off. So for growth, here's what I got. A 1, so +1 to any stat. And it's really not that beneficial for me because none of my stats are on the cusp of... Actually, you know what? I am going to take 1 point into strength because I believe that is on the very edge of being a +1. I think +1 starts at, nope, okay, +1 starts at 14. That's unfortunate. I will take strength anyways, because there might be a way for us to increase that, because now I'm thinking not just only a mage, but I would think I might want to do a partial this time. So maybe partial and mage and warrior. I think that would be pretty interesting. So intelligence at the top and then strength for our next one down. So that was our growth roll. I'm going to go ahead and roll twice on the learning. So for scholar, we have administer, heal, craft, know, notice, perform, pray, and convince. So let's see what we have. A 6, which is perform. Okay, so we get that at level 0. And for our very last roll, we get convince. Okay, interesting. So we have perform, know, and convince. So already I'm starting to think of like, where has my character been as a scholar to know, convince, and perform. Interesting, interesting. Okay, so that's it for our background. Now we're actually going to go ahead and choose a class. Classes start on page 18, and they're fairly similar to what you would find in Stars Without Number. You have the Expert, which is really great if you wanted to be very skillful, have a lot of different skills. You have the Mage, which is capable of performing magic, or has the potential to perform magic. Then you have the Warrior, who's really good at hitting things. And then you have the Adventurer, which just combines 2 of the 3 into one unique class. And for the Adventurer, you have things like Partial Expert and the Partial Warrior, the Partial Expert and the Partial Mage, or the Partial Mage and the Partial Warrior, which is what I am going to become. We're going to do Partial Mage and Partial Warrior. So a Partial Mage is treated as a mage and gains the Arcane Tradition ability, allowing them to pick a magical tradition for their powers. Their tradition's abilities will be more limited for Partial Mages, however, as described under each of the paths. It's even possible for a PC to pick the Partial Mage class twice for 2 different magical traditions, gaining portions of both arcane powers. They then use the usual full mage chart for hit dice, attack bonus, and foci, and the spellcasting table on page 64 if both partial classes cast spells. A partial mage must adhere to the restrictions and limits of their magical tradition in order to use its abilities regardless of whatever other partial class they may have. Whereas the partial warrior gains certain of the benefits of a full warrior, including the improved hit die and a somewhat improved attack bonus. They do not have the veteran's luck special ability or the killing blow power, however, and must trust to their own talents to land blows and crush their enemies. So there is some trade-off for that. And I really do like this table that has all of the different partial combinations, because you're actually going to see their new hit dice. If I was just going to be a mage, I would actually roll 1d6 minus 1 for my hit points. But now with the partial warrior, I get to bump that up to a +2. My attack bonus is going to be +1. And then my focus picks, I can pick 1 warrior plus 1 for any. So that 1 warrior is going to be a combat-focused foci, or focus, I guess, while the other one could be anything that I choose. So there is that. I'm going to go ahead and write down my abilities on my character sheet, and then we will go ahead and move into choosing our foci. The foci list begins on page 22, and there's quite a few to go through, or a few pages to actually look through here. Now, I've actually been looking at some of these and trying to internalize how I want my mage warrior to really function in this game, or this world. And I actually did want to take something like Arm Master. So you have an unusual competence with thrown weapons and melee attacks. This focus benefits do not apply to unarmed attacks or non-thrown projectile weapons. As focus bonuses also don't stack with Deadeye or other foci that add a skills level to your damage or shock. So what this actually does, at level 1, we gain stab as a bonus skill. You can ready a stowed melee or thrown weapon as an instant action. You may add your stab skill level to a melee or thrown weapon's damage roll or shock damage, assuming it has any to begin with. And I think that would be really good for us to take because currently we actually don't have any combat skills. And if we don't have any combat skills whenever we try to attack with something, whether it's stab, punch, or whatever range, or shoot, I guess is what it's called, then we actually take a -2 penalty to hit with that weapon. So I think having Arms Master and then pairing that up with like a sword or something would actually be beneficial for us. As my second foci, I actually want to take Armored Magic. So this is usable only by mage heroes who would otherwise be prevented from casting spells or using arts while armored. This focus reflects special training in channeling magic through the hindering materials of conventional armor. So at level 1, you can cast spells or use arts while wearing armor that has an encumbrance value of no more than 2. You can use a shield while casting, provided your other hand is empty for gesturing. Not only can we actually attack with a sword, but now we can actually cast spells while wearing armor up to a certain point. And I think that's important for us, especially if we're going to be a little bit more geared towards, getting into the thick of things and then casting spells, whether it's enhancing ourselves or, casting some sort of offensive spell. So I am going to take Armored Magic and Arms Master as my 2 different foci. So next we're actually going to go ahead and choose a skill to gain at level 0. So now we actually get to choose any skill that we want to gain at level 0. And I don't think it really has any restrictions. Like in Stars Without Number, I know that we couldn't choose any of the Psychic. So let's see. Now pick one skill of your choice to reflect your hero's outside interests, natural abilities, hobby, expertise, or other personal focus. So yeah, there's no restrictions on what we can choose. So after looking at my skills, which I have Convince, Know, Perform, and Stab, I think it would be kind of silly to actually not have at least a rank 0 in Magic. So I am going to take Magic and bump that up to level 0. That way we can actually effectively cast spells and stab things. So there is that. So now let's go ahead and move on to picking a tradition for our Mage. Magic and the Arcane Traditions begins on page, whatever this page is. Let's see, page 60. So, and it goes through just a little bit of the lore of like what these different mage types actually do. So for mage types, we have the High Mage, we have the Elementalist, we have the Necromancer, and then we have the Healers, and then we have the Vowed, which actually don't cast magic per se. I'm going to go ahead and take the High Mage as my arcane tradition. Now, on each of the different traditions, you have the full mage benefits, and then you have the partial mage benefits. So since we are starting at level 1, our max level for spells is going to be 1, and the amount of spells that we can cast is going to be 1, and the amount of spells prepared that we can cast are 2. And then we get to pick one of these arts, whereas a full High Mage gets to pick 2 of those arts. So let's take a look at the High Mage benefits. So all High Mages gain Magic as a bonus skill, acquiring it at level 0 or level 1 if it was already level 0. Every High Mage is well educated in the principles of magic as understood by the sorcerers of Latter Earth. High Mages can prepare and cast high magic spells and have a number of arts dedicated to improving their use of these incantations. As usual for spellcasters, they cannot wear bulky clothing or armor while casting or using arts, nor use shields. Mages who have trained to overcome these limits with the armored magic focus have more latitude, like as we did. High Mages conduct extensive experimentation and study as part of their daily activities. This relentless focus helps them master high magic spells without needing the outside help of tutors and discovered texts. each time they advance a level. They may pick 2 High Mage spells from the list in this book to add to their repertoire. These spells must be of a level they can cast. High Mages also gain arts specific to their tradition. At first level, a full High Mage picks 2 arts and a partial picks only 1. As they gain levels and experience, they'll learn additional arts from the adjacent list. Once picked, an art cannot be changed. So first thing that we're going to do is actually go ahead and pick an art. Arts for the High Mages includes Arcane Lexicon, Counter Magic, Empowered Sorcery, Hang Sorcery, Inexorable Effect, Iron Resolution, Preparatory Counter Magic, Psychic Conversion, Restrained Casting, Retain Sorcery, Sense Magic, Suppress Magic, Swift Casting, Ward Allies, and Wizard's Grandeur. So this is probably going to sound a little bit lame, but I am going to take Sense Magic. So commit effort as an instant action. While it remains committed, you can visually perceive magical energy and get a one-sentence description of the effect of any standing magics or magical items you inspect. The ambient magical energies in most areas allow you to see clearly even in conditions of perfect darkness. And I kind of like the sound of that, actually. You know, being able to see magic or feel it out. And it kind of sounds like an identify spell to me, so I actually do quite like that as well. Now we're actually going to go on to pick 2 spells for our mage. And they have to be High Mage spells, and they have to be from level 1. So right back here, we do have a list of High Magic spells. So after taking a look at the High Magic spell list, I am going to take Velocitous Imbuement. And what this does, this augments the movement speed and options of 1 target per level. Seems like a pretty interesting way of just, augmenting oneself to be at least a little bit faster. I also want to take the Long Amber Moment, so put a willing creature into temporary invulnerable stasis, and that could really help out a ally who's about to really take the brunt of some damage. Maybe a creature manages to come up to them or sneak up on them, and in that just last second you put them into that Long Amber Moment and kind of save them. So I'm going to take those 2 spells as my first level spells. And with our spells finally picked, we get to choose an equipment package. The equipment packages begin on page 29, and for my character, this one is no contest. I'm actually going to be taking the Armored Warrior, especially since we have the foci of Armored Magic. I can actually wear armor of up to Encumbrance 2, which is pieced armor, which gives us an AC of 14. So we also get a large shield, which gives us +1 to our AC when wearing armor, a short sword, a dagger, a backpack, and a tinderbox with 3 torches. So I'm going to take all of that and put it inside of my inventory. Now we actually get to roll for our hit points. And for each of the different classes, hit points works a little bit differently. So warriors get 1d6 plus constitution modifier +2. Experts get 1d6 plus constitution modifier. Mages get 1d6 -1 plus their constitution modifier. As a partial warrior, partial mage, we actually get 1d6 +2 plus our constitution modifier, which is at 0. So we just get the +2. So let's go ahead and roll our 1d6 and add that to our maximum hit points. So 1d6 +2 plus our con modifier, which is 0. We get 8 hit points, our maximum that we can actually get, which is actually pretty good. I am down with that. So hit points, 8, current 8. Our base attack bonus is actually a +1, as we saw in the partial mage, partial warrior list. So there's nothing else that needs to be done for that. But we do need to calculate that for all of the different weapons. So I do have a short sword and I have a dagger that I will need to actually account for. For the short sword, we actually have, short sword, 1d6, shock of 2 with an AC of 15 or lower, with an attribute of strength or dexterity. Don't see anything else that needs to be done there. So our base bonus to hit is going to be 1 plus our strength modifier, which is 0, so just a +1 to hit. And I believe that's going to be the same for a dagger as well. Yes. Since I'm not adding any modifiers from dexterity or strength, which is unfortunate. The short sword is 1d6, the dagger is 1d4. The range for the dagger, if it can be thrown, is 30-60. And that is all that we really need to do for that. I suppose I should go ahead and write the bonus for damage as well. But again, I don't really have any bonuses because they're all at level 0. So there we go. If I did have a 1 in stab, I could add that to the short sword. I'm not so sure about the dagger. I assume so, but don't know for sure just quite yet. Let's go ahead and calculate our armor class while we're here. So our armor is the pieced armor, which gives us an AC of 14, and we would get to add our dexterity modifier if we had one. So that's just going to be all around 14 for our armor class. Not that great in my opinion, but oh well, it beats the alternative of wearing no armor, which would just be a straight up 10. Now for our saving throws, there are 4 different saving throws this time around. We have physical, evasion, mental, and luck, which is new if you're from Stars Without Number. Physical is 16 minus level, which in this case is 1, which equals to 15. So 15 minus your strength or con modifier, which it's, let's be honest, this is all going to be 15 right down the row. Evasion would be 16 minus level, which would equal 15, minus the best of either dexterity or intelligence modifier. That is actually going to be 14. So our evasion is actually 14. So that's actually something. Our mental is 16 minus level, which is 15, minus wisdom or charisma modifier, which will be 15. And for luck, it is 16 minus level, which is straight up 15. So not so good for saves. The exception of evasion is okay. So there is that. Now we're going to pick a name. His name is going to be Galad. I just made it up. Don't blame me on that one. And our goal is going to be probably to roam around the land and look for, I guess, old arcane magical artifacts. I think he's going to be an artifact hunter, given that he has a high mage focus there, and he's got some stability as an adventurer, you know, with the whole warrior class or partial warrior class, so he kind of knows how to handle himself or take care of himself. So I think that would be a suitable goal. He's an artifact hunter. So that is actually going to be it for now. Feel free to leave a comment down below, give this video a huge thumbs up to support the series, and subscribe if you would like to see more. I will see you guys in the next video.